In this demo, I'm going to create an Azure AD application registration using the Azure Active Directory Admin Center and then also a .NET Core console app that's going to be able to allow me to query and show you information about Office 365 groups. I'm going to start by launching the browser, navigating to the Azure AD Admin Center at aad.portal.azure.com. Now in the left-hand menu, I'm going to select the Azure AD icon, and then I'm going to choose from the Manage section, App Registrations. On the App Registration page, I'm going to select New Registration, and on the Register an Application page, I'm going to create a new Graph app. So it's going to be called the Graph Console app. And for the supported account types, I'm going to leave it set to the single tenant. And then I'm going to select Register. Now there's a few values that you see here on this overview page that you're going to want to keep track of for your application that we're going to need later. So I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code just to act as a little notepad for myself. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to copy the application ID and I'm going to save these three values, the application ID. I'm going to also grab the tenant ID. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to set up a platform configuration. So I'm going to select authentication from the menu, and I'm going to add a platform. And because we're building a console app, I'm going to choose a mobile and desktop applications. And in the redirect URI section, I'm going to choose the native client and then select the configure button. Now, in addition, I'm going to scroll down a little bit farther, and I'm going to select for the public flows or the public client flows, I'm going to select yes for allowing mobile and desktop flows. This is going to allow us to use the resource owner password credential flow, which is just a very simplified way for us to handle authentication, as we want to focus on the actual Microsoft Graph piece to this and not so much all of the details around creating different, supporting different OAuth flows and different access options we have with Azure Active Directory. So then I'll go ahead and select Save. The next step is to select the permissions that our application is going to need. So I'm going to select API permissions. And then I'm going to select add a permission to our Azure AD app that we're going to need to access groups. So I selected Microsoft Graph. This is going to be a delegated permission. And the permission that we're looking for is user.readbasic.all. That's this one right here. So I'm going to select that one. And then I'm also going to grab the permission group.read. And I'll go ahead and select add permissions. Now, on this page, I'm then going to go select the grant admin consent for Contoso, and then select the yes button in the consent dialog to grant all the users in my organization these permissions. The option to grant admin consent here in the Azure AD Admin Center is going to pre-consent the permissions to all the users in the tenant, just to simplify this demo. This approach allows for the console application to use the resource owner password credential grant so the user isn't prompted to grant consent to the application. That just simplifies the process of obtaining an OAuth access token. You could elect to implement an alternative option, such as the device code flow, to utilize dynamic consent as another option. But in this case here, I'm just going to use the resource owner permission.